Sofia Martinez never imagined that helping a fainted elderly man on the street would change her life forever. She was rushing to pick up her 5-year-old daughter Sofia from daycare when she saw the elegant man collapsed on the sidewalk. Without hesitation, she dropped her grocery bags and knelt beside him, checking his vital signs with the experience she'd gained caring for her sick mother before she passed. "Sir, can you hear me?" she whispered, gently patting his cheek. The man's expensive suit and gold watch suggested he was wealthy, but Sofia didn't care about that. All she saw was someone who needed help. As she called 911, she noticed a small crowd gathering, but no one else had stopped to help. She stayed with him, holding his hand and speaking softly until the paramedics arrived. What Sofia didn't know was that this moment of pure kindness toward Roberto Vitale, the respected patriarch of one of New York's most powerful Mafia families, would soon bring his grandson Lorenzo Enzo Vitale directly into her struggling world. And when Enzo discovered what this single mother had done for his beloved grandfather, everything would change. If you want to discover how this chance encounter led to an unexpected love story, and what happened when the Mafia boss found out about Sofia's kindness, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment about where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more heartwarming stories like this one to life. 3 days had passed since Sofia Martinez helped the elderly stranger, and she had almost forgotten about the incident. Her life was a constant juggling act between her job as a waitress at Tony's Diner, evening classes to become a certified nursing assistant, and caring for her 5-year-old daughter Sofia. Money was always tight, but Sofia had learned to make every dollar stretch. "Mommy, why do you look so tired?" little Sofia asked as Sofia braided her dark hair before school. "I'm not tired, sweetheart. Just thinking," Sofia lied, forcing a smile. The truth was, she'd been working double shifts to save money for Sofia's birthday next month. Her daughter deserved a real celebration, not just a homemade cake and a single gift from the dollar store. After dropping Sofia at the community center's daycare program, Sofia hurried to the diner. The morning rush was already in full swing when she arrived, tying her apron with practiced efficiency. "Sofia, table 6 needs coffee and the businessman in the corner booth has been waiting for 10 minutes, called out Marge, the head waitress. Sofia grabbed the coffee pot and made her rounds, her smile genuine despite her exhaustion. She had learned that kindness cost nothing, and it often made her customers' days a little brighter. The businessman in the corner booth was unlike their usual clientele. His charcoal grey suit was perfectly tailored, his dark hair styled with precision, and his presence commanded attention even in the humble diner. When Sofia approached his table, she noticed his intense green eyes studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Good morning, I'm sorry for the wait. What can I get you?" she asked, pen poised over her notepad. "Just coffee, black," he replied, his voice deep and measured. There was something familiar about him, but Sofia couldn't place it. As she poured his coffee, she noticed him watching her every movement. It made her slightly nervous, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "Are you new to the neighborhood?" she asked, making conversation as she'd been trained to do. "You could say that," he replied cryptically. "Actually, I'm looking for someone, a young woman who helped my grandfather a few days ago. He was unwell. On 5th Street. Sofia's hand stilled on the coffee pot. "Oh, is he okay? I was so worried about him after the ambulance took him away." The man's entire demeanor shifted. His intense gaze softened, and something that looked like relief crossed his features. "That was you." It wasn't a question. Sofia nodded, setting the coffee pot down carefully. "Is your grandfather all right? He seemed so frail when I found him." "He's fine now, thanks to you." The man extended his hand. "Lorenzo Vitale, but everyone calls me Enzo." "Sofia Martinez," she replied, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected flutter through her stomach. "Sofia," he repeated, as if testing how her name sounded. "My grandfather hasn't stopped talking about the angel who stayed with him. He said you held his hand and talked to him until help arrived." Sofia felt heat rise to her cheeks. Anyone would have done the same thing. "No," Enzo said firmly. "They wouldn't have. There were dozens of people walking by, but only you stopped. Only you cared enough to help a stranger." Before Sofia could respond, Marge called out from across the diner. "Sofia, orders are backing up." "I have to get back to work," Sofia said apologetically. Enzo nodded, pulling out his wallet. He placed a $100 bill on the table for a $3 cup of coffee. "Keep the change." "And Sofia, My grandfather would very much like to thank you personally. Would you consider having dinner with us this evening? Sophia stared at the money, then at him. I can't accept this much money for coffee, and I have my daughter to think about. I don't really go out. Bring her, Enzo said without hesitation. My grandfather loves children. 7 o'clock at Bella Vista on Park Avenue, please. It would mean everything to him. Something in his voice, a vulnerability beneath the confident exterior, made Sophia pause. I don't have anything appropriate to wear to a place like that. You're perfect exactly as you are, Enzo said, and the sincerity in his voice made her heart skip. 7 o'clock, Sophia. Please don't disappoint an old man who wants to properly thank his guardian angel. As Enzo left the diner, Sophia noticed how every conversation seemed to quiet as he passed. There was something about him that commanded respect, even fear, but when he'd looked at her, she'd seen only warmth and gratitude. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Sophia couldn't stop thinking about Enzo's invitation. Part of her knew she should decline. Men like him lived in a different world, and she'd learned the hard way that crossing social boundaries usually led to heartbreak. But another part of her, the part that had been lonely for so long, was curious about this mysterious man who looked at her like she was something precious. When she picked up Sophia from daycare, her daughter immediately noticed her distraction. "Mommy, you're smiling different," Sophia observed with the uncanny perception of a 5-year-old. "Am I?" Sophia asked, buckling her daughter into their beat-up Honda Civic. Like when you watch those movies with the pretty dresses." Sophia laughed despite herself. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to accept one dinner invitation. After all, how often did someone want to thank her for simply being kind? But as she drove home to their small apartment, Sophia had no idea that Lorenzo Vitale was the heir to one of the most powerful crime families in New York, or that her simple act of kindness had set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. She also didn't know that Enzo had spent the last 3 days searching every hospital, diner and shop in a 10-block radius, determined to find the woman who had shown his grandfather such unexpected compassion. What she did know was that for the first time in years, she felt something stirring in her chest that felt dangerously close to hope. Bella Vista was unlike any restaurant Sophia had ever seen. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in pristine white linens, and the soft murmur of conversation, mixed with classical music, created an atmosphere of refined elegance. Sophia felt completely out of place in her best dress, a simple navy blue number she'd bought for job interviews, but Sophia was enchanted. "Mommy, it's like a princess castle," Sophia whispered, her eyes wide as they followed the maitre d' through the dining room. Enzo was waiting for them at a private table in the back corner, and Sophia's breath caught when she saw him. He'd changed from his business suit into dark slacks and a white button-down shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders. When he stood to greet them, his smile was warm and genuine. "Sophia, you look beautiful," he said, pulling out her chair. "And you must be Sophia. Your mother told me you're 5 years old." Little Sophia giggled and nodded. "Are you the man whose grandpa got sick?" "I am," Enzo replied seriously, crouching down to her level. "And your mummy was very brave to help him. She's a hero." Sophia felt her cheeks warm at his words. "I just did what anyone would do." "We've established that's not true," Enzo said softly, his eyes meeting hers across the table. Before Sophia could respond, an elderly man approached their table. Despite his age, he moved with dignity and purpose, his silver hair perfectly styled, and his dark eyes sharp with intelligence. Sophia recognized him immediately. It was the man she'd helped on the street. "No," Enzo said, standing immediately. "This is Sofia Martinez and her daughter Sofia." Roberto Vitale's weathered face broke into a warm smile as he took Sofia's hand in both of his. "Mia cara ragazza," he said softly. "My dear girl. You have no idea what your kindness meant to an old man." "I'm just glad you're feeling better," Sophia replied, genuinely moved by the emotion in his voice. "Better? I feel like a new man." Roberto laughed, then turned to little Sophia. "And who is this beautiful principessa?" Sophia beamed at being called a princess. "I'm Sophia, like my mommy, but I'm little." "2 Sophias," Roberto exclaimed. "How lucky I am to meet 2 angels in 1 week." As they settled in for dinner, Sophia found herself relaxing despite the opulent surroundings. Roberto was a natural storyteller, regaling them with tales of his youth in Italy, carefully edited for young ears. Enzo watched the interaction with an expression Sophia couldn't quite read, something between affection and amazement. "Your grandfather is wonderful," Sofia said quietly to Enzo, while Roberto was showing Sofia how to fold her napkin into a flower. "He likes you," Enzo replied. "That's rare. Nonno doesn't trust easily. What about you?" The question slipped out before Sofia could stop it. Enzo's green eyes studied her face. "I'm learning too." The waiter approached with their meals, and Sofia was surprised when Roberto ordered in rapid Italian. The staff responded with obvious deference, and she noticed how other diners glanced their way with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Do you come here often?" Sofia asked. "The family owns it," Enzo said casually, as if owning upscale restaurants was perfectly normal. "The family? The Vitale family has several business interests. In the city," Roberto explained diplomatically. "Restaurants, construction, import-export." Sofia nodded, though something in their careful phrasing made her curious. There was clearly more to their business interests than they were saying, but she didn't press. Everyone had secrets. As dinner progressed, Sofia found herself genuinely enjoying the company. Roberto doted on Sofia, who was clearly charmed by the attention. And Enzo watched Sofia with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. When he smiled, really smiled, not the polite expression he wore for others, it transformed his entire face. "Mommy," Sofia said suddenly, "can we come back here for my birthday?" Sofia's cheeks burned with embarrassment. "Sweetheart, this is a very special place. We're only here because Mr. Roberto wanted to say thank you." "When is your birthday, Principessa?" Roberto asked. "Next month. I'm going to be 6, Sofia announced proudly. 6 is a very important age, Roberto said seriously. It requires a proper celebration. "Nonno," Enzo warned quietly, but his grandfather waved him off. "A little girl who is kind like her mother deserves to be celebrated," Roberto declared. "We will discuss this later." After dinner, as they prepared to leave, Roberto pulled Sofia aside while Enzo helped Sofia with her coat. "Mia cara," the old man said softly, "I want you to know that what you did for me, it reminded me that there is still goodness in this world. In my business, I sometimes forget that." "What business are you in, Mr. Vitale?" Sofia asked gently. Roberto's eyes twinkled with something that might have been mischief. "Family business, cara mia. Always family business." As they walked to the restaurant's entrance, Sofia noticed the valet had brought around a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. 2 men in dark suits stood nearby, and she realized they'd been there all evening, watching. "Security," Enzo explained, noticing her observation. "My grandfather is careful about his safety." Sofia nodded, though questions were multiplying in her mind. What kind of restaurant owners needed armed security? And why did everyone in the restaurant treat the Vitales with such obvious deference? "Let me drive you home," Enzo offered as they reached the sidewalk. "Oh no, that's not necessary. We can take the bus," Sofia protested. "Absolutely not," Roberto interjected. "A lady and her daughter do not take the bus at night. Lorenzo, you will see them home safely." The ride to Sofia's apartment building was quiet, with Sofia dozing in the back seat. Sofia was acutely aware of Enzo beside her, his presence filling the space between them, with an electric tension she hadn't felt in years. When they pulled up to her modest building, Sofia felt a wave of embarrassment. The contrast between their worlds had never been more obvious. "Thank you for dinner," she said softly. "It was magical. Sofia will remember this forever." "What about you?" Enzo asked, his voice low. "Will you remember it?" Sofia met his gaze, and for a moment the air between them crackled with possibility. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll remember." As she carried sleeping Sofia upstairs to their small apartment, Sofia had no idea that Enzo sat in his car for 20 minutes, staring up at her building, and wondering how a chance encounter with his grandfather had led him to a woman who made him want to be a better man. But she was about to find out that the Vitale family's gratitude came with complications she never could have imagined. The next morning brought an unexpected delivery to Sofia's apartment. She opened the door to find a man in a delivery uniform holding an enormous bouquet of white roses and a small wrapped box. "Sofia Martinez?" he asked. "Yes, but I think there's been a mistake." "No mistake, ma'am. These are for you." After he left, Sofia stared at the flowers in amazement. The card was simple. "Thank you for reminding us that angels exist. The Vitale family." Inside the small box was a delicate gold bracelet with a single charm, a tiny angel. "Mommy, they're so pretty," Sophia exclaimed, touching the soft petals. "Are they from the nice man and his grandpa?" "Yes, sweetheart," Sophia replied, fastening the bracelet around her wrist. It felt strange to wear something so expensive, but she couldn't bring herself to take it off. At the diner that morning, Sophia couldn't concentrate. Every time the bell above the door chimed, she looked up hoping to see Enzo. She told herself it was silly. Men like him didn't frequent places like Tony's diner. Last night had been a beautiful exception. Nothing more. She was wrong. Enzo walked in during the lunch rush, and Sophia's heart did a little flip when she saw him. He was dressed more casually today, dark jeans and a black sweater that hugged his muscular frame, but he still commanded attention from everyone in the diner. "Your usual table?" Sophia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Actually, I was hoping you might join me for lunch. When's your break?" Sophia glanced around the busy diner. "I can't really take a break during lunch rush." "Sophia," Marge called out, "take your break. I've got this covered." Sophia shot her co-worker a grateful look and untied her apron. As they settled into a quiet booth, Enzo slid a manila envelope across the table. "What's this?" Sophia asked. "Open it." Inside was a check that made Sophia's eyes widen. It was more money than she made in 6 months. "I can't accept this," she said immediately, pushing the envelope back toward him. "It's not charity," Enzo said firmly. "My grandfather wants to establish a fund for your daughter's education. College, medical school, whatever she wants to pursue. Enzo, this is too much. I helped your grandfather because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted anything in return." "I know," he said softly. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Sophia stared at the check, her mind racing. This money could change everything for Sophia. No more worrying about rent, no more choosing between groceries and utilities. But accepting it felt wrong somehow. "There's something else," Enzo continued. "My grandfather would like to offer you a job." "A job?" "He needs someone to help him with his medications, his appointments, someone he trusts. The pay would be substantial." Sophia looked up from the check to find Enzo watching her intently. "What aren't you telling me about your family business?" For a long moment, Enzo was silent. Then he leaned forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "My family has been in New York for 4 generations. We have influence in certain circles. Some of our business dealings exist in gray areas of the law." Sophia's blood ran cold. "Are you telling me you're criminals?" "I'm telling you that my grandfather is a good man who has lived a complicated life. And right now, he needs someone he can trust to take care of him. Someone with a pure heart who won't judge him for his past." Sophia's hands trembled as she set the check down. "I need to think about this." "Of course," Enzo said. "But Sophia, my grandfather isn't the only one who's been affected by your kindness." Before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. Enzo glanced at it, and his expression darkened. "I have to go," he said, standing abruptly. "There's a situation that requires my attention." "What kind of situation?" Enzo hesitated, then leaned down to speak quietly in her ear. "The kind that reminds me why I want to keep you and Sophia far away from my world." As he started to leave, Sophia called out, "Enzo, wait." He turned back, hope flickering in his green eyes. "If I were to consider this job, would I be safe? Would Sophia be safe?" "I would die before I let anything happen to either of you," he said, with such fierce conviction that Sophia believed him completely. After he left, Sophia sat staring at the check and thinking about everything Enzo had revealed. She'd suspected there was more to the Vitale family than restaurants and construction, but hearing it confirmed was different. Yet when she thought about Roberto's kind eyes and Enzo's protective instincts, she couldn't reconcile the image of dangerous criminals with the men who had treated her and Sophia with such respect. That evening, as she helped Sophia with her homework in their tiny kitchen, Sophia's phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello? Sophia, cara mia, it's Roberto." "Mr. Vitale, how did you get my number?" Roberto chuckled. "I have my ways. I'm calling because I wanted to speak with you personally about the position we discussed. I'm still thinking about it," Sophia said honestly. "Of course, but I want you to know something, mia cara. In my long life, I have met many people. Some were good, some were bad, and most were somewhere in between. But you have something special, a light inside you that this old world hasn't dimmed." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. "Mr. Vitale, I know my grandson told you about our family business. I know you have concerns, but I promise you this, as long as you are under the protection of the Vitale family, no harm will come to you or your beautiful daughter. We take care of our own." "But I'm not family," Sofia whispered. "Aren't you?" Roberto asked gently. "You saved my life, cara mia. In my world, that makes you family forever." After they hung up, Sofia sat in her quiet apartment, weighing her options. She could continue struggling, working multiple jobs and barely making ends meet, always one emergency away from disaster. Or she could accept help from a family whose business she didn't fully understand, but whose gratitude seemed genuine. As she tucked Sofia into bed that night, her daughter asked, "Mommy, are we going to see Mr. Enzo and his grandpa again?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Would you like to?" Sofia nodded enthusiastically. "Mr. Roberto makes me laugh, and Mr. Enzo looks at you like Daddy looked at you in the pictures." Sofia's breath caught. Sofia barely remembered her father, who had died in a car accident when she was 2. But somehow, her perceptive daughter had noticed something Sofia was trying not to acknowledge. The way Enzo looked at her with a mixture of desire and tenderness that made her feel beautiful and wanted for the first time in years. That night, Sofia lay awake thinking about green eyes and gentle hands, about the safety of Enzo's presence and the warmth of Roberto's affection. She thought about the check sitting on her kitchen table and the job offer that could change their lives. But most of all, she thought about the way Enzo had said he would die before letting anything happen to her and Sofia, and how much she wanted to believe that such protection was possible in a world that had shown her so little kindness. By morning, Sofia had made her decision. Sofia's hands shook as she dialed the number Enzo had given her. It was barely 7 in the morning, but she'd been awake all night thinking about her decision. "Sofia?" Enzo's voice was immediately alert, despite the early hour. "I'll take the job," she said without preamble, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "Sofia comes with me when I work. I won't leave her with strangers or in daycare all day. And if I ever feel like we're in danger, I walk away with no questions asked." "Agreed," Enzo said immediately. "Anything else?" "I want to understand exactly what I'm getting into. No more vague references to family business. I need the truth." There was a long pause. "Can you meet me this morning? There are things that are better discussed in person." 2 hours later, Sofia found herself in the back of Enzo's SUV, driving through an upscale neighborhood she'd only seen in movies. They pulled through iron gates into the circular driveway of a massive estate that looked like something from a magazine. "This is where your grandfather lives?" Sofia asked, staring up at the imposing mansion. "This is where our family lives," Enzo corrected. "Nonno has the main house. I have a wing on the east side. There are guest quarters, staff apartments, and plenty of space for you and Sofia if you decide you'd prefer to live here." "Live here?" Sofia's voice came out as a squeak. Enzo turned to face her, his expression serious. "Sofia, I need you to understand something. My family's protection isn't just a figure of speech. Once you're part of our world, you can't just dip your toe in. It's all or nothing." Before Sofia could respond, the front door opened and Roberto appeared, his face lighting up when he saw them. "Mia cara," he called out, walking down the steps with surprising agility. "You came." "I accepted the job," Sofia said, allowing him to take her hands in his weathered ones. "Wonderful. Come, let me show you around. Lorenzo, bring her inside." The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and priceless artwork adorned the walls. But what struck Sofia most was how lived in it felt, despite its grandeur. Family photos covered side tables, and she could smell something delicious cooking in what she assumed was the kitchen. "This is Maria," Roberto said, introducing Sofia to a plump, middle-aged woman who emerged from the kitchen. "She's been with our family for 20 years. Maria, this is Sofia, our angel." Maria beamed and immediately began speaking in rapid Italian. Roberto translated with a chuckle. "She says you're too skinny, and she's going to feed you properly. She also wants to know when she can meet your daughter." "Sofia's at school," Sofia said, "but she'd love to meet Maria." As Roberto showed her around the house, explaining his daily routine and medical needs, Sofia began to relax. The job seemed straightforward. Help with medications, accompany him to doctor's appointments, ensure he ate properly and got enough exercise. It was exactly the kind of work she'd been training for in her nursing classes. "Now," Roberto said as they settled in his study, "Lorenzo tells me you want to know about our family business." Sofia nodded, glancing at Enzo, who had been quietly following their tour. Roberto sighed deeply. Mia cara, my family came to America with nothing but hope and determination. We built our empire through hard work, but also through unconventional means. We are what people call connected. We have influence in places where others do not. We protect our neighborhood, our businesses, our people. You're talking about the Mafia, Sofia said quietly. Such an ugly word, Roberto said with a slight smile. We prefer family business. But yes, cara mia, we are what movies and television have made famous, though the reality is far more complex than Hollywood would have you believe. Sofia's heart was pounding. And Enzo? Is being groomed to take over when I'm gone, Roberto said simply. He's a good man, Sofia. Better than I was at his age. He wants to move our family's interests into legitimate businesses, to leave the old ways behind. Enzo spoke for the first time since they'd entered the house. I want to build something clean for the next generation, but change takes time, and in the meantime we still have obligations, enemies, and a reputation to maintain. Enemies? Sofia's voice was barely a whisper. Rival families who would love to see the Vitales fall, Enzo said honestly. Business competitors who don't appreciate our methods. Law enforcement agencies that would like to see us behind bars. Sofia stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the estate's manicured gardens. This is insane. I can't bring Sofia into this world. You already have, Enzo said gently. The moment you helped my grandfather, the moment you accepted our gratitude, you became connected to us. The question now is whether you'll let us protect you properly. What does that mean? Roberto answered. It means you and your daughter will never want for anything. It means no one will ever hurt you or threaten you. It means you'll have a family who would die for you. But it also means, Enzo continued, that you'll always be looking over your shoulder. It means Sofia will grow up knowing that her mother works for people who live outside the law. It means accepting that the man who's falling in love with you has blood on his hands. Sofia turned from the window, her eyes wide. What did you say? Enzo stepped closer, his green eyes intense. I said I'm falling in love with you. Have been since the moment I saw you caring for my grandfather with such tenderness, and that terrifies me more than any enemy I've ever faced. The room fell silent except for the ticking of an antique clock on Roberto's desk. Sofia stared at Enzo, her heart racing as she processed his confession. This is too much, she whispered. I need time to think. Of course, Roberto said gently. But cara mia, remember this, love is rare in this world. When it finds you, it's a gift not to be wasted. As Enzo drove her home, neither of them spoke until they reached her apartment building. Sofia, he said as she reached for the door handle, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to know that everything I told you in there was the truth. All of it. Sofia looked back at him, seeing vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. Even the part about falling in love with me. Especially that part. That evening, as Sofia picked up Sofia from school and went through their normal routine of homework and dinner, she felt like she was living in two different worlds. In one, she was a struggling single mother trying to make ends meet. In the other, she was being offered a life of luxury and protection by a man who made her heart race, and a family that had welcomed her with open arms. But she was also being asked to accept that the people who cared about her made their living outside the law, and that loving them might put her and Sofia in danger. As she tucked Sofia into bed that night, her daughter asked, Mummy, why do you look worried? I'm just thinking about some big decisions, sweetheart. About Mr. Enzo and his grandpa? Sofia nodded. How would you feel if we spent more time with them? Sofia's face lit up. I'd like that. Mr. Roberto promised to teach me Italian words, and Mr. Enzo has kind eyes like Daddy did. Sofia's heart clenched. If even her 5-year-old daughter could see the goodness in Enzo despite his dangerous world, maybe there was hope for all of them. But first, she needed to decide if she was brave enough to take the leap. Sofia's decision came sooner than expected. She was walking home from her evening shift at the diner when she noticed the black sedan following her. At first, she thought it was paranoia, but when she turned down a side street and the car followed, her blood ran cold. She ducked into a 24-hour convenience store and called the number Enzo had given her for emergencies. Sofia, his voice was sharp with concern. There's a car following me, she whispered, peering out the store window. Black sedan, tinted windows. Where are you? She gave him the address, and she could hear him barking orders to someone in the background. "Stay exactly where you are. Don't leave that store. I'm 3 minutes away." "Enzo, I'm scared." "I know, baby, but you're going to be fine, I promise." The endearment sent warmth through her chest, even in her fear. Through the store window, she watched the sedan circle the block twice before speeding away. 2 minutes later, Enzo's SUV pulled up with a screech of tires. He burst through the store door, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "Are you hurt?" "No, just shaken up." Sophia found herself walking straight into his arms, and he held her tightly against his chest. "This is my fault," he said into her hair. "I should have anticipated this." "What do you mean?" Enzo pulled back to look at her. "Word travels fast in our world. People know my grandfather has taken a special interest in you. Some might see that as an opportunity to send a message." Sophia's knees went weak. "Sophia, oh God, what if they go after Sophia?" "They won't," Enzo said firmly. "I have men watching her school, your apartment, everywhere you go. But, Sophia, this proves what I was trying to tell you. You're already in our world, whether you want to be or not." As they drove to pick up Sophia from the neighbor who watched her in the evenings, Sophia made her choice. "I'll take the job," she said quietly. "And I want to move into the estate. Both of us." Enzo's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Are you sure?" "No," Sophia admitted. "But I'm sure that I'd rather be scared in a mansion with people who care about us than scared in a tiny apartment with no protection." "And us?" Enzo asked softly. "What about what I told you yesterday?" Sophia was quiet for a long moment. "I think I'm falling for you too, and that terrifies me more than your family business ever could." The next morning, Sophia moved into the Vitali estate. Roberto had insisted on giving them an entire wing of the house, a spacious suite with a living room, kitchenette, and 2 bedrooms that were each larger than their entire apartment. "Mommy, this is like a fairy tale," Sophia exclaimed, spinning around in her new bedroom that overlooked the gardens. "It is, sweetheart," Sophia agreed, though she wondered if they were living in a fairy tale or walking into a beautiful trap. Over the following weeks, Sophia settled into her new role. Roberto was an easy patient, charming, cooperative, and genuinely grateful for her care. He took his medications without complaint, attended his physical therapy sessions, and regaled her with stories of his youth in Sicily. But it was her growing relationship with Enzo that truly transformed her life. He was nothing like she'd expected a Mafia heir to be. Yes, he was dangerous. She'd seen him take phone calls that made his expression go cold and deadly. But with her and Sophia, he was gentle, protective, and surprisingly vulnerable. He helped Sophia with her homework each evening, teaching her Italian phrases that made Roberto beam with pride. He listened to Sophia's dreams of becoming a nurse and arranged for her to continue her classes online. And slowly, carefully, he courted her with a patience that spoke of deep respect. Their first kiss happened 3 weeks after she'd moved in. They were in the garden after dinner, watching Sophia chase fireflies while Roberto dozed in his chair. "She's happy here," Enzo observed, nodding toward Sophia's delighted laughter. "She is," Sophia agreed. "I haven't seen her this carefree since before her father died." "And what about you? Are you happy here?" Sophia turned to find Enzo watching her with that intense gaze that never failed to make her pulse quicken. "I'm getting there." "What would make you completely happy?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibility. Sophia stepped closer, her heart pounding as she reached up to touch his face. "This," she whispered, and kissed him. Enzo's response was immediate and reverent, his arms coming around her as if she were something precious he'd been waiting his whole life to hold. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Sophia," he said against her forehead, "I need you to know that I've never felt this way about anyone. You and Sophia, you've become my whole world. Even though I come with complications." Enzo laughed softly. "Baby, I'm the heir to a crime family. You're the least complicated thing in my life." Their relationship deepened over the following month. Enzo introduced Sophia to the legitimate side of the family business: the restaurants, the construction company, the import business. He showed her his plans for transitioning the family away from illegal activities, his vision for a future where the Vitali name was associated with success rather than fear. But Sophia also learned about the darker side. She met Enzo's lieutenants, serious men who treated her with respect but whose eyes held secrets. She overheard phone conversations about problems that needed to be handled. She saw Enzo leave the house in the middle of the night and return hours later with tension in his shoulders, and shadows in his eyes. The crisis came on a Tuesday evening in October. Sophia was helping Sophia with a school project when Enzo burst into their suite, his face grim. "Pack a bag, both of you. We're leaving in 10 minutes. "What's wrong?" Sophia asked, immediately moving to gather their things. "The Torino family made a move against one of our businesses. They left a message that mentioned you and Sophia specifically." Sophia's blood turned to ice. "What kind of message?" Enzo's jaw clenched. "The kind that means they know exactly how to hurt me." As they rushed through the house, Sophia saw the estate transforming into a fortress. Armed men took positions at windows and doors. Roberto appeared in the hallway, fully dressed despite the late hour. "No, you should stay here where it's secure," Enzo said. "Nonsense," Roberto replied firmly. "Where my family goes, I go." They were driven to a safe house in the mountains, a secluded cabin surrounded by Enzo's most trusted men. For 3 days, they waited while Enzo coordinated the family's response to the Torino threat. On the third night, as Sophia slept peacefully in the cabin's back bedroom, Sophia found Enzo standing on the porch, staring out at the dark forest. "This isn't the life I wanted for you," he said, without turning around. Sophia moved to stand beside him. "But it's the life we have. I could send you away, give you new identities, enough money to start over anywhere in the world. You'd be safe, and you'd be alone." Enzo finally looked at her, and Sophia saw the pain in his eyes. "I'd rather be alone than put you in danger." "That's not your choice to make," Sophia said firmly. "I'm not some helpless victim, Enzo. I chose this life. I chose you. And I'm not going anywhere. Even knowing what it means? The constant danger, the secrets, the fact that our children will grow up in this world?" Sophia's heart skipped at his mention of "our children," but she kept her voice steady. "Especially knowing what it means. Because I also know what you mean to me, what your family means to Sophia. We're not just safer here. We're loved here." Enzo pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I love you," he whispered fiercely. "God help me. I love you more than my own life." "Then stop trying to send me away," Sophia whispered back. "We're stronger together." The Torino threat was resolved 2 days later, in a way that Enzo didn't share with Sophia, and she didn't ask. What mattered was that they were safe to return home, and that Enzo had finally stopped trying to protect her by pushing her away. That night, as they tucked Sophia into her own bed in the estate, she looked up at them with sleepy eyes. "Are you and Mr. Enzo going to get married?" she asked with the blunt curiosity of a child. Sophia felt her cheeks burn, but Enzo answered seriously. "Would you like that, Principessa?" Sophia nodded enthusiastically. "Then we'd really be a family." After Sophia fell asleep, Enzo and Sophia walked hand in hand through the gardens where they'd shared their first kiss. "She's right, you know," Enzo said softly. "We are a family. The 3 of us, nonno. Even Maria and the others. You've given me something I never thought I could have." "What's that?" "A reason to be better than what I was born to be." Sophia stopped walking and turned to face him. "You were already good, Enzo. I just helped you see it." "Marry me," he said suddenly, dropping to one knee right there in the moonlit garden. "I don't have a ring yet, and I know this world is crazy and dangerous, but marry me anyway. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you and loving you and trying to be worthy of the gift you've given me." Sophia looked down at this powerful, dangerous man kneeling before her with his heart in his eyes, and knew there was only one answer she could give. "Yes," she whispered, and then louder, "Yes, yes, yes." As Enzo swept her into his arms and spun her around, Sophia heard Roberto's voice calling from the house. "It's about time," the old man shouted, and Sophia realized he'd been watching from his window. "Maria, start planning a wedding." 2 years later, Sophia stood in the same garden where Enzo had proposed, watching her daughter, now 7 and fluent in both English and Italian, chase Roberto around the fountain while he pretended he couldn't catch her. The old man's health had improved dramatically under Sophia's care, and his joy in his adopted granddaughter had given him new purpose. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Vitale," Enzo said, wrapping his arms around her from behind and resting his hands on her growing belly. "Just thinking about how much has changed," Sophia replied, leaning back against his chest. 2 years ago, I was a struggling single mother who could barely pay rent. Now you're the wife of a reformed crime boss who's 6 months pregnant with his child," Enzo finished with a chuckle. "Reformed?" Sophia asked, raising an eyebrow. Mostly reformed, Enzo amended. The restaurants and construction company are completely legitimate now. The import business is getting there. Sophia turned in his arms, studying his face. Any regrets? Only one, Enzo said seriously. I regret that it took my grandfather collapsing on a street corner for me to find you. I should have been looking for my angel all along. Maybe, Sophia said, reaching up to kiss him softly. Or maybe we found each other exactly when we were supposed to. As Sophia's laughter echoed through the garden, and Roberto called out in delighted Italian, Sophia knew that sometimes the most beautiful love stories began with the simplest act of kindness. This story of unexpected love and second chances has reached its end. If it touched your heart in any way, please leave a like and share it with someone who believes in the power of kindness to change lives. New heartwarming stories arrive regularly, each one a reminder that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. Until next time, keep believing in happy endings.